Good morning. How are you today? Well, a little warmer, a little sunnier. Not bad. I hope it's like this where you are. Hope you can get out. There are several issues kicking around that I haven't seen talked about. One is Kinzinger's statements. Congressman on the floor, former Republican, kind of cast himself out because of the positions they were taking. And he's decided to offer his views on why the Republican caucus would want to lie. Why would they want to subjugate themselves to Trump? And there are more members of Congress and commentators off the Hill that are taking the side of Liz Cheney in this fight, saying, how can we do that? How can we support the big lie, which is Trump's statement that he really won the election, that we know he lost? How can we go forward in a country with that kind of thinking? And I don't want to beat it to death, but I think it says a lot about the party, and it says something as well, that a party that claims to feel so strongly about ideology would replace a pretty far-right conservative like Cheney with a New Yorker who has a moderate record. So it shows that the ideology and the issues and the position statements are not as important as fealty to Trump the loser. And that's a strong statement. And I think they'll reap the whirlwind in the primaries and elections at midterm. And hopefully if that happens, that'll give us a stronger hand to return Biden to office should he want to run again. The next thing is the question of racism in America and police. And, you know, we know it exists, and we're kind of amazed each time. We're surprised by it because we're so conditioned to respect authority, I think. Our instinct is to want to get along, to respect authority, and to assume that somebody's there to help you. But if you're a person of color and you're in a car at night, the fact that you have degrees and have a job with a security clearance, and you're going home and you haven't had anything to drink and your blood level is normal, when you get stopped by a white cop, that's a moment of concern. And apparently there was a woman in Fairfax, Northern Virginia, who was driving along just as I've described, and she was stopped. And because the light was good enough on the highway, she didn't notice her high beams weren't on. Okay, so that's a reason to stop. But he stopped, and then he made a big thing of it and wanted her to get out of the car and threw her to the ground and took her into custody. And when they got the tests back and her blood was 0.0 for alcohol, then he said, oh, well, she resisted arrest and a whole variety of things. And then he put her car in a lot somewhere, and her keys and wallet were in the car. And when she was released, the officer said, oh, your mother will be waiting outside, even though her mother had died years earlier. And she basically, having no money or anything, depended upon the good offices of a true peace officer who gave her $20 and helped her get going so she could get her car. And so it was like 8 hours after her arrest, she finally arrived home with her car. Now, those charges are going to be dismissed. But that's a good example of what can happen if you're a person of color that might not happen to a white woman or a white male. So when people say, oh, what are you talking about? How can you be against the police? Well, I'm not against all police. I've worked with a lot of outstanding law enforcement officers in all sorts of branches of the government, and I've been very impressed by them. But you know, this comes up too often. We're hiring the wrong people. We're not giving them the right training. We're not punishing them when they do wrong. We're giving them immunity from civil suits afterwards. This is not acceptable. And it makes it harder for the good officers to do the right thing when they watch these other guys get away, not with murder, although sometimes that happens too. The third thing that's kind of interesting to me is that, you know, we've all talked about Manchin being kind of a stick in the mud when it comes to advancing some of the proposals because we need his vote to get to that 50. And then the extra vote, if we need it, is the vice president sitting in the chair in the Senate as the president of the Senate, and she can throw the tie-breaking vote. Well, today, the the president is meeting with Manchin to discuss his infrastructure bill. And in connection with it, there's been a debate about whether the tax rate should be 21 or 28%. And Biden has made it very clear that he wants this to pay for itself, meaning that there has to be funds somewhere that pays for this infrastructure. And that answer is the tax package. And he's going to meet with Manchin. Now, Manchin has said, so that you know this is not a useless discussion, Manchin has said at one point that 25% strikes him as fair or reasonable. Now, we'll have to see if we can build on that, and that would be the conversation that, as I understand it, Biden is going to have with Manchin today at the White House. And if I threw in a spare Trump back there, because it's in the back of my mind, I apologize. I sort of think I did, but I'm not sure. So those are a couple of things I think are going on. It's a nice day out. Get out if you haven't been out. And, well, I think things are moving forward. So I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.